Good evening. My name is Moses Sandy. I'm here with my friend and brother Alphonso Union. Today we are in the issues room. Our colleague Alfonso, our colleague Volcano Shelton is not here with us this evening due to other, personal engagement. However, we are here to make the case, to educate, to inform, as we always do. But before we even move forward, I want to use this opportunity to welcome our many viewers wherever you are. I want to say welcome to the Issues Room. This is where you want to be every Tuesday evening, every Friday evening, because we are the number one. We are career journalists. We are not regular podcasters. So when we come here, we educate, we entertain, and we propagate the news of the day. That's why you want to make the Issues Room your place to be every Tuesday, every Friday evening. Uh, Alfonso, I want to give you the opportunity to come in briefly, say something before we can get, this show started.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you, Moses, and thanks to our viewers for joining us tonight. As always, and as Moses said, this is going to we promise you every Tuesday and every Friday to bring you a very informed discussion on issues affecting Liberia and Liberians in the diaspora. So we ask you to share the link, join us, ask your colleagues to join us in this very thought-provoking and informative conversation tonight. Thank you, Moses. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alfonso. Thanks for coming. So please share the link, share the link, share the link. Well, tonight, for many of you who had the privilege of, you know, uh, viewing our promo for this evening show, we have promoted uh, that we were going to host Liberia's culture ambassador Judy Andy. We wanted to know who is Judy Andy, what she has been able to accomplish in Liberia for the last 30 years. Ambassador Andy was appointed Liberia's culture ambassador in the early 1990s. She has been able to hold on to this position for the past 30 years. Recently, we heard about a number of individuals who are also expressed interest in wanting to become cultural ambassador. How does one get to this position? Is this a paid position? If it is not a paid position, what are the expectations? What does it mean to be a cultural ambassador? What do you do for your country? And what has Ambassador Judy ended being able to do over the year? These are the issues that we really want to delve into tonight. And then, as part of the discussion, we'll also be delving into the ongoing legal issue. Many of you will follow social media, will follow developments in Liberia, are aware that currently Ambassador Andy and a gentleman called Prophet Key, who a Liberian who resides in Morocco, are currently in a legal battle. Ambassador Andy in December of 2023 went to court and filed a little over $5 million defamation lawsuit against Mr. Keith. She claimed that Mr. Keith had taken to social media and defame her. He made some derogatory comments about her. He said things about her that she considered to be obscene. As a result of that, she chose to go to court to seek legal redress. But before getting to that, let's, Alfonso, let's wrap our head around um, what does it mean when someone is named as a cultural ambassador? What are the expectations?
So yes, and I wish Miss Andy was able to come tonight. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to come due to some circumstances beyond her control. In my understanding, those circumstances are related to the ongoing case. But yes, so who is a culture ambassador? What is the importance of a culture ambassador in Liberia or in any other country or society for that matter? As we all know, every society has its own culture. informed by its norms, practices, and beliefs. And so the culture of a country, the culture of a society is extremely important to the existence and progress of that society. So definitely the title of a culture ambassador is very important because it helps to preserve the culture of the people, which brings unity and cohesion among the people, and which facilitates progress among the people. So the term culture ambassador is just looking at it broadly is very important in terms of promoting a people's identity and their values and their norms. Um, what has Miss Andy done as a culture ambassador, or what has previous culture ambassadors done? That I do not know. And so I had hoped that she would be here to have that conversation with us. But definitely, the title of a culture ambassador is very, very important. I haven't seen a lot that has been done by either by Ms. Andy or by previous culture ambassadors in terms of promoting Liberia's culture at home and abroad. For instance, when you talk about culture, as I said before, it has to do with the people's way of life. It has to do with the people's norms and values and practices, the things that they produce, how they live, their foods, their clothing, the language, and their dance. Not just the dance, but it's one of that. So those are extremely important. Unfortunately, I personally have not seen um, that culture, the Liberian culture, the things that we produce, our way of life, our languages, our traditional practices, the way we hold festivals and the way we celebrate weddings, births, etc. I haven't been seeing those being promoted in Liberia and outside. One of the ways that those things can be promoted is for instance, through performances, but also through the performing arts, through movies, and those kinds of things. And unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of those lately.
Well, you you successfully summarize what it means to be a cultural ambassador, like you said. Promoting the way of life, the way, especially when if we narrow it down to Liberia. Anyone who holds the title of cultural ambassador, basically, the responsibility would be to promote our way of life, the food we eat, the clothing, our dances, and all of that. Promoting that and attracting others, to our cultural practices, you know, uh, giving a better image of Liberia. All of these make, a good expectation, or all of these are good expectation of what it means to be a cultural ambassador. This is what, or these are things that people expect to see when you hold a title, and what we have been able to see over the years for the last 30 years. Alfonso, you and I, when we were in Liberia, Ambassador Andy was cultural ambassador.
Mhm.
She was named in the early 90s as cultural ambassador. First, before I even move forward, let me just help people understand the position of cultural ambassador. The title is an honorary title, it's a goodwill title. The cultural ambassador is not salary position. Anyone who occupies that position is more like doing a voluntary work. So Ambassador Andy is not paid. She has no government office. What she does, she runs her own nonprofit. She she collaborates with government on so many programs. That's how she contributes to the country. She also collaborated with the Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs, and Tourism, the traditional cheese whenever it comes to, promoting the culture, activities in the country. These are things that she does. You know the role, the outstanding role Julie Andy played during the disarmament period in Liberia. Julie traveled the entire 15 countries, uh, you know, uh, literally reaching out to combatants, encouraging them, to disarm, and that went very well. The polio campaign, the anti-polio campaign, Julie using her traditional dancers, they help to convey anti-polio messages to Liberians. She played a significant role in that. So over the years, Ambassador India has been able to collaborate with the Ministry of Health and other agencies, even international organizations, in promoting peace messages, promoting messages of health, promoting the culture of Liberia. So I wanted to provide this little bit of information because there are some other people who are of the view that the culture ambassador has an office space, has a government assigned vehicle. No, that is not the case. Judy Andy drives her own vehicle. Wherever she operates from, maybe I know when I was in Liberia as a reporter, then she had an office space at the Ministry of Health. That's when she collaborated with the NDI when they were involved in the polio campaign. She had an office space there, and her team actually played a significant role in doing that. Even before again I came to the States, Julie was able to bring, I think, over 30, cultural artists to the United States, and they came to tour various states in the United States to sell the culture of Liberia to people in America. So she's not salary. Her job is absolutely voluntary. So whatever she does, funding comes from international organization. As a result of the nonprofit which she runs, calls that Liberia Crusader for Peace. So to use that organization to do a lot of work in the country. In recent times, we have seen on social media and even in the local media as well, other people expressing interest. I heard about a young lady in Liberia called Jojo, and she also, is in the media or was heard saying that she has interest in becoming cultural ambassador. And we heard about this popular Liberian who resides in Morocco. I know his first name is Justin, but he's popularly referred to as Prophet Key. I say he's unpopular because his style of communication, it seems more defamatory than actually helping to promote the way of life of Liberians. He's noted for putting people down, for using invectives. So Mr. Key, Prophet Key, as simply referred to, has also expressed interest in becoming cultural ambassador of Liberia. And it is now important that we delve into this whole legal issue involving him and Ambassador Andy, Alfonso, because in 2023, the latter part of 2023, uh, 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 Mr. Justin or Prophet Key was heard on social media, using obscene languages. I mean, languages that I wouldn't feel comfortable using on this platform. You also will not feel comfortable using such language on this platform because that is not what we are noted for as professionals. But Mr. Key was heard on social media, literally denigrating Ambassador Andy, saying the worst thing about her, saying the worst thing about her family, making allegations that Ambassador Andy considered to be unfounded. So in December, Ambassador Andy filed a lawsuit against Prophet Key. It is reported that she's claiming a little over $5 million, as a result of I mean, she's claiming a little over $5 million as compensatory damage for the defamation that Mr. Key's reported action has caused her, over the months. So Prophet Key went to Liberia. I think he has been in Liberia for maybe approximately 2 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
Upon his arrival in Liberia, the civil law court, where the law suit against Mr. Key was filed at, instituted legal action. So Mr. Key was served with a writ of arrest. He was taken to the civil law court on the first day. Um, the matter the matter started. He was held on what we call in Liberia prisoner bench, and later on we are told a bond was filed. He was allowed to go home. He returned. He returned to court. I think on Monday of I mean, not Monday, but rather he returned to court on Friday of last week. Again, there's another hearing that we are aware of that he also supposed to, in fact, again, he went to court on Monday too. And then he's supposed to return to court on Friday of this week. When he went to court on Monday, the court ruled that he needed to get a bond. I think the court asked him to file a bond for $1.5 million, and if he did not succeed in getting the bond, he would have been held in detention. In the wake of the situation, we learned from Ambassador Andy, because I have personally reached out to her to let her know that we were ready to host her this evening to come and talk to us about what she does in Liberia and provide us a little bit of information about this legal matter. So I reached out to her, and the ambassador told me in tears that um, the legal advisor to to President Joseph Boakai, Councillor Bushubeng Keita, uh, met with court officials, and the matter was reversed. He gave a directive that the case against Prophet Keith be dropped. And after speaking to Ambassador Andy, I reached out to the legal advisor, and let me make this full disclaimer. Mr. Keita is my former boss when I used to be at LBS as a reporter. Then Mr. Keita was Director General of the Liberia Broadcasting System. So I reached out to him. We had a conversation. He admitted to me, yes, that uh, he intervened, and the government is of the view that Liberia is a signatory to the Table Mountain Declaration, which decriminalizes free speech. Mr. Keita believes that what Prophet Key says, the use of obscene languages, the defaming of people in the absence of evidence. Mr. Keita strongly believes that all of these constitute what he calls free speech. So, predicated on that, a directive was given that a legal matter against Mr. Cave, be dropped, because Liberia is a signatory to a law that decriminalizes free speech. So I want to bring in Alfonso. Let me just quickly bring this video with Ambassador Andy. She had a news conference in Monrovia today on the same matter. I want our many viewers to listen to her briefly, and after that, we will go into the action taken by the uh, the legal advisor to the president, whether Mr. Keita has the legal authority to do what he did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is he
Mm-hmm.
now the Attorney General of Liberia? So while I look for this video, I will give you the opportunity to go ahead and
Mm-hmm.
say something while I try to get this video.
Okay, okay, definitely. No, thank you for giving the background. I think that was really important. Yes, it's true that President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf signed the Table Mountain Declaration. I don't remember the year. And and the Table Mountain Declaration sought to decriminalize um, freedom of speech, so to speak. Also, President, we assigned, I believe, I forgot the name,
The
um,
Abdullah K.
Abdullah, what
A
was his
Kamara Act, which
Abdullah
also
Kamara Act, which
decriminalizes,
also sought to decriminalize
mm,
free speech. Um, so, two things here to that. Freedom of speech. Um, how do I phrase it? So, those laws, in my understanding, relate to what government and government officials do when they are criticized by individuals. They have nothing to do with individual defamation and libel laws. Those still remain on the book. My understanding is that Ms. Andy or Mrs. Andy is not a government official and she wasn't suing Mr. Prophet Key as a government official and she wasn't using government authority to do that. So she has a right. The Table Mountain and the Abdullah Kiatama laws do not take away the rights of private citizens to sue other private citizens for damages. What those two laws sought to do was to decriminalize, not to de-civil. So there are civil litigations where people can be held accountable to pay damages. Those laws were never repealed. Those two laws that were passed did not repeal civil damage laws in Liberia. They repealed criminally holding people accountable. So we'll send you to court. You are a crime. You committed a crime, and we'll send you to jail because you said this, and that is a crime. That's what the Table Mountain and the Adulaki Atama laws sought to repeal. Civil laws still remain on the book where people can sue people for damages and hold them to pay them for the damages that they have caused them. So that's my understanding. So I think there's a little bit of confusion there with the action. I don't know which action Mr. Councilor
Bishop
Bushuben
Bengate.
Keita took. Now, Bushuben, as a lawyer, and any lawyer for that matter, if the court allows, has the authority to go into court and make representation, either as a friend of the court or whatever, to say, we want to intervene to take this case out of the court, or this is our position, or this is the government's position, or this is this group's position on this matter. I'm assuming that's what he did because he doesn't have the authority to stop a court proceeding. He's not a member of the judicial branch of government. When the judiciary is proceeding with a case, the executive has no power and no authority to go and stop the case. Executive can make representation and say, this is our government's policy. We think this right is being violated. We think this law is being violated, etc. It's left with the judge then to decide whether to uphold what that other party or what that other representative is saying. So I don't have all of the details. We do not have all of the details in terms of what Bujuben Keita's representation was, what specifically he was trying to do there, and what the judge has ruled, if anything. But I assume you've come to the video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look, before I
So
even comment further,
yeah.
Alfonso, let's give our audience the opportunity to listen to Ambassador Andy as she explained, and then after that,
Mm,
we will speak to what Mr. Keita did.
mm.
In the name of
Are you hearing her?
Nia Wagwa Upa
Are you hearing
Zenye
her?
Yeah.
Justin
If
Ma
it, mhm.
AKD Rafiki. And I CC copied 21 organizations, including the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. State Department, the EU, the, the United Nations, uh, ECOWAS, and other international council of churches, the traditional council, the Muslim Council, the Imam Council, traditional leaders, women organizations in Liberia. And then I decided to consult my family. I began stress based on the verbal abuse, my health, my businesses, my family. And so I decided that I believe in democracy and the rule of law. And so I decided to go to court. And my counsel filed a lawsuit in my favor at two fronts. Number one, in the civil law court, and number two, in the criminal court. And the rate was filed and in February. And so Nia Bwakwa Opa Zenyen Justin Ma, got two names, aka Prophet Key, arrived in Liberia, and the sheriff went for the arrest of Prophet Key and asked us to appear in court. As a law-abiding citizen believing in the judiciary system, I went to court with my lawyers. Because in the criminal court, the government, through the prosecutor, from the office of the court, started the plea on the case. I'm not a lawyer, but I was in the court. The first appearance was that he was coming. He had just come to Liberia. He should be taken, giving the leverage to file a bond and come back the following day. So Monday, we all appeared in court again, and in that court, we were told he needed to file a bond today by 1 p.m. And if he risks filing the bond, he will go to jail. My interest is not the jail, my interest is justice. To my utmost surprise, as about this afternoon, I saw on social media that the case has been dropped on the instruction of the legal advisor to His Excellency Dr. Joseph Yuma Boakai, President of the Republic of Liberia, who hears all of us as citizens of this country. Wishiben Keita instructed the Senate court and the prosecutor without the Ministry of Justice, the OIC from the Ministry of Justice. He instructed the prosecutor to drop the case without even having little respect for me as a human being, or as someone who believed in the law to have gone to the law. Unknowingly and unknown to me, the case was dropped. In a document, this is the first exhibit that I wrote the Ministry of Justice here. We were supposed to, I went to the court, I made a complaint. I gave evidence to the court. It was based on that to my legal counsel that they filed the case in the court. And the case that was filed in the court, the crime was criminal coercion, menacing, disorderly conduct. It is not a civil matter that I took to the city court. It was a criminal matter that I took.
Yeah, Alfonso, you listen to Ambassador Andy, and like the writer indicated, this is a civil matter involving two citizens of the country. One felt aggrieved as a result of the action by the other and went to court and instituted a legal action. Uh, the ambassador reported that the legal advisor uh, intervened, and based on his definition of what constitute the criminalizing of free speech, acting on that, Liberia being a signatory to the Table Mountain Declaration, he thought that the most important thing to do at the time was that to intervene. He reached out to the uh, the legal authority and asked that this case be dropped. Now, anyone listening to this podcast tonight may be wondering as to whether Mr. Keita's action, what made him do what he did. So let's look at what constitute free speech, even in the United States. Everything we do in Liberia is patterned to a greater extent after the United States. Our constitution in Liberia is patterned after the U.S. Constitution. So free speech in Liberia, free speech in the United States, you know, they are synonymous. So this is the legal definition. What constitutes free speech? Under free speech, what are the acceptable, you know, uh, uh, um, acts or behaviors that someone engages in, he or she will not be punished? It is a right to speak, right, and share ideas and opinions without facing punishment from government. Like what we are doing here, we are sharing information. The guys who run the newspapers want to write objectively. The guys who run the radio stations, when they are communicating objectively, they are not laboring, they are not defaming people. All of those will constitute what? Free speech. When you feel aggrieved and you think that you need to be heard, you can walk down to the Walmart, you can walk down to any a street corner and hold a minor or a poster to say, hey, I'm opposed to this. That's part of your free speech. Once you are not doing anything that endanger the safety of other people, that form part of free speech. And all of this make up what we call the First Amendment laws of Liberia. I mean, of the United States, and which is also applicable to Liberia. Now, what are the limitations of free speech? I want to define this, so then after that we can look into the action taken by the legal advisor to President. Then after that, we can take a closer look at the legal action taken by Mr. Keita, the legal advisor to President Joseph Boakai, whether his action is right or wrong. These are the limitation of what uh, um, uh, um, are not considered, free speech, or the limitation of free speech, things that are not considered free speech. Obscenity, when you use invectives. I sit on this podcast and defame people with no justifiable reason. That's not free speech. If any of us come here and call people terrible names and bully people, that's not free speech. Um, what also doesn't constitute free speech? Child pornography. If you go and broadcast that or you use that in public setting, that's not free speech. Um, when someone makes a defamatory speech a speech that defames either a group of people or an individual, a speech that puts someone down in a terrible way, a speech that makes someone to suffer psychological problem, psychological stress, emotional stress. That's not free speech. Um, another another thing I would like to say quickly before we get to the discussion, when someone engages in false advertising, that's not free speech. When you use what they call fighting words, like what Prophet Key does, he sits there, he calls the private part of women, he puts women down, he puts individuals down that he claimed that committed crime, he calls them terrible name, he bullied people. All of these acts do not constitute free speech. And that is where the both of us, Alfonso, are now legal luminaries. But I think the president legal advisor actually dropped the ball. I don't know his definition of what constitutes free speech. But for Mr. Keita to tell us that Mr. Key would take to social media and publicly denigrate another person, and you said that's free speech? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now, what authority the legal advisor has? Alfonso, you tell me, help me out on this.
So yeah, so a few things here. Let's try to unpack this. As I was listening to Ambassador Andy, she said two things that stood out to me. She said she filed a civil suit in the civil
Yes.
law court,
Mhm.
and she said she also filed a criminal case in criminal court. And that Mr. Prophet Key was supposed once he arrived into Liberia
Yeah, it was
was supposed to be
fire
arrested.
lawsuit. I mean, to
Yeah,
firebomb. Yeah.
supposed to be arrested and jailed unless he filed a bond. To me, that is the criminal aspect of the case. Because what Table Mountain and um, Abdullah
Declaration.
Declaration
The art. Yeah.
and the Kiatamba. I'm sorry, his name is what
Abdullah
Kiatamba.
Abdullah Abdullah Kamara.
Abdullah Kamara Act seeks to do is to decriminalize speech, such that people, because once a person is charged with crime, now you can arrest them and just put them in jail. They can be in jail until the trial, unless they have money to
Of course.
build themselves out. It is that element of the law that the is that element of the previous law that the Table Mountain and the KAK laws sought to remove,
Right.
so that the civil element still remains. The reason why they wanted to remove that piece of it is that is then used to chill speech, is used to make people to engage journalists and individuals they gave in self censorship because they go to jail once they don't have. So somebody would just say, "I sue you for 5 million, for 10 million," and then of course, if you can't come up with the bond amount, which would be huge once they sue you for that amount, then you languish in jail. It is that element that those two laws sought to take out,
Hmm.
but the civil element still remains.
Right.
So, having listened to Ambassador Andy talk about how Prophet Key was supposed to be arrested
Hmm.
and put to jail until he came up with a bond, what I think was proceeding, the case that was proceeding, was the criminal case, which Councillor Keita thinks was a violation because that part of the previous Liberian Code of Laws, in his view, had been repealed. I did not hear Ambassador Andy talk about the civil case. In my view, the civil case should still proceed if she wants to proceed with it. Because once again, in my view, that civil law, civil libel has not been repealed. What has been repealed is criminal libel, it's criminal defamation, so that people are not sitting in jail waiting for trials. So that newspapers that cannot come up with a bond because somebody said what you wrote is false, therefore I sue you for $5,000, $10,000 do not get to close down, or their publishers don't go to jail. So that is the aspect. Now, the other point I want to make is that did Mr. Councilor Bushu Ben Keita have the right to intervene?
Absolutely. That's where I was about to come to. Yeah.
I believe he did. I believe he does. The government has a right to intervene in
Hmm.
cases involving the civil liberties of citizens in
Hmm.
the court. Does he have the authority to go and stop the case and say no case going on here because I'm the what advisor to the president? No. He can make a representation to the court and say, look, the rights of our citizens are involved here, and we believe that the rights are being trampled upon. In this case, he can make the argument, for example, this law upon which you are arresting and about to send this man to court, to jail, has been repealed. So you can't use it. I'm assuming that is his representation. The judge then reviews the circumstances along with the parties and makes a determination as to whether to proceed or not to proceed based upon what existing law is. So I want to assume here that after Mr. Bushu Ben Keita made the representation, the judge reviewed the matter and based upon that made a decision. I don't know for sure what the decision is that the judge made, but listening to Ambassador
She
Andy,
said the case
she
was
said the
dropped.
case, she said the case was dropped. Now, Councilor Bushu Ben Keita doesn't have the authority to drop a case. The judge can drop the case, the prosecution can drop the case because they are the one in charge of the case. He can only make representation. And as I said earlier, the government can make representation in court, especially where it sees that the rights of its citizens are involved. So
So,
that could be what happened. Um,
but
yes,
Alfonso,
yeah.
okay, look, against, let's look at who has that constitutional authority to exercise such power.
Mhm,
Uh, a legal advisor to the president
mhm,
and the Minister of Justice.
mhm,
The Minister of Justice is the Attorney General of the Republic of Liberia,
mhm.
is the Chief Prosecutor of the Republic of Liberia.
Yep.
Do you think someone whose job is to tell the president that this is legal, these are the legal implications of what you intend to do or not to do,
Mhm.
do you think such person has that power to tell a prosecuting team that, hey, now you need to put a pause on this? When that happens, then what happened to the Attorney General? Who is who here?
Yeah. So what I would say to that,
Hmm.
Moses, and that's a legitimate point. But however, um, um, we have a situation where the government hasn't been fully constituted,
But
and
there are
so
other people at the Justice Ministry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I'm coming. So where the government hasn't been fully constituted, Minister of Justice designate hasn't been confirmed, so hasn't taken over. I agree with you. There are other people. There should be other people at the ministry who could take on the task. The Ministry of Justice, however, um, it's mostly the legal arm of the office of the president as well. I mean, the Minister of Justice is appointed at the will and pleasure of the president, and is somewhat carries on the mandate of the president.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go off a limb and assume here that the president, knowing that the Ministry of Justice hasn't been fully constituted, his Attorney General is not in place. It is the deputies at the Ministry of Justice that he appointed have knowing that they haven't been fully constituted, might have then agreed or authorized his other lawyer, who was his legal advisor, to go and represent his government in this situation where they feel that um, the rights of citizens are being uh, in a way violated under a law that no longer exists, and b, that doing so will have a negative reflection on his government, might have decided, along with his legal advisor, and advisors don't have to go through confirmation hearing, so they are fully the working now. My and the legal advisor, being a lawyer, told him, yes, you can go and act on the government's behalf, because if we allow this case to proceed, where somebody goes to jail because of what they said against somebody, then we're actually violating the Abdullah Kamara Act and our Table Mountain Commitment. So again, I wasn't in a room when that conversation might have taken place. So I'm going off a limb to assume that that is probably what might have happened. And
Look.
once that representation was made, the
Mhm.
judge might have agreed with them and
Mhm.
say you're right, and therefore drop the case. Because again, the president's legal advisor has no authority to drop a case that's already before a judge in a separate branch of government, which is the judiciary.
Yeah, and Alfonso, uh, I personally see the action of the legal advisor as trying to overstep his, legal authority. I say this because it is true that we have a minister designate at the Ministry of Justice, but we also have a prosecution arm of the Ministry of Justice. Liberia has a Solicitor General. I'm sure there's a division of the Ministry of Justice that also, handle legal matters on behalf of the Liberian government in the absence of the Attorney General. For the fact that we do not have a confirmed Attorney General, that doesn't mean that the Ministry of Justice is just sitting there like that. And what Mr. Keita has done is unprecedented. For all the years I covered activities in the media, and I didn't see legal advisors, trying to play the role of people, at the Ministry of Justice.
Mhm,
This is a matter that is already in court, like you said earlier. If the rights of Mr. Keith, Prophet Key, who has gained notoriety not only in Liberia, who has become very unfamous not only in Liberia, even abroad, for shaming people publicly.
mhm,
If there's a matter in court against this man, and the legal advisor strongly believe, or the government strongly believes that his rights, have been trampled upon, I think my assumption would have been that since the matter is scheduled for Friday, the legal team of the government would have gone to court and make the case, allow all parties to be a part of that hearing process. Ambassador Judy, Mr. Keeve, the Liberian government legal team, everybody show up in court and say, hey, we have a concern about this matter, even though this is a civil matter between you and Prophet Key, but we believe that there are some legal issues that violate Mr. Keeve's rights, and they can make the case. a decision would have been taken. But now the legal advisor reportedly made a decision. He intervened without even reference to the victim. She has a scheduled court hearing for Friday.
Mhm.
It is alleged that Mr. Keita, the legal advisor to the president, intervened, made a decision that dropped her case without even giving her the courtesy to be heard. What do you think?
So in terms of courtesy, perhaps courtesy should have been granted where maybe Mr. Councilor Kader, who have reached out to her or her legal team as
Absolutely.
well, which I believe, even if Councilor Keita did not do that, the court, in dropping the case, should inform the parties that we're dropping the case based upon these grounds. So the court could do that. Mr. Councilor Keita himself could have done that as well as a courtesy. The way I look at it here, again, given the background that I didn't have before, but that Ambassador Andy provided, is that the government might have been looking at this situation as not only a violation of Mr. Professor Key's rights, but something that could cast a bad image on the government if they sat down and allowed a law that was repealed to be implemented, which is by sending one of their citizens to prison on a criminal libel law that was repealed. Because again, as Ambassador Andy said, she sued in two courts. She sued civilly and she sued criminally. It was on the criminal law that Mr. Key would have been arrested and put in jail because he doesn't have money to file a bond for about 500,000 or 1 million or 2 million, whatever the
$5
amount.
million. dollars.
5 million.
I mean, the bond
She
is
sued for
1.5
five
million
million,
dollars.
but the bond was
The bond is
probably less than
1.5
5 million.
million. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, that's what the law was intended to prevent. That people shouldn't be sent to jail because they are poor. They don't have money, so they can't speak. So journalists are afraid to publish or to say something because somebody will just come say 20 million, and then 10% of 20 million, 15% of 20 million is 3 million. You can't come up with it. You'll be sitting there in jail until something. That's what the law sought to prevent. So if the
Mhm.
government has sat down and allowed somebody to go to jail or wait until Friday for somebody to go to jail or be in jail until Friday, it would have also the U.S. State Department, number of groups, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, all of us would have now been reporting that even though Liberia had repealed criminal libel law, they're still being used in Liberia. I want to assume that that's what the government wanted to avoid. That's why it stepped in to advise the court that this law is no longer on the books. So do not proceed with it. One thing I observed or I heard um, from what Ambassador Andy said is the government's intervention did not touch the civil case. So if she wants, she can still proceed with the civil case, which will be damages, which will still be the amount of money. She would then prove the damage that was caused her by Mr. Prophet Key, and Prophet Key can be held accountable to pay that money, right? But it's the jail element, it's the prison element
But
that the policy
Alfonso,
provided. Yeah.
What I heard her say,
Mhm,
uh, today was given as a deadline
mhm.
for him to secure the 1.5
Yeah.
million dollar bond.
Yeah.
If he did not succeed in securing the bond today,
Mhm.
nothing would have happened today. But when he shows up to court on Friday and he doesn't produce the bond,
Mhm.
then the legal action would have been taken.
Mhm.
So where I'm coming from on this is that look, you have you have tomorrow, you have Thursday, and even Friday. Nobody has been thrown into prison. The government, through the Ministry of Justice, should have reached out to all of the parties and say, hey, even though this is a civil matter, but we see that in this case, if left unattended, will violate the right of somebody. Because of that, we will make a representation that this particular aspect of the hearing, which has to do with criminalizing free speech, quote unquote, criminalizing free speech, because he doesn't have the $1.5 million, he will be thrown in prison. We will come to court and make that case. So at least you gave everybody the opportunity to be heard. But
Mhm.
you heard Ambassador Andy say she was flabbergasted
Mhm.
when she saw the pronouncement on social media. Ambassador Andy is a Liberian, just as Prophet Key is. She's an alleged victim of what Mr. Key did,
Mhm.
allegedly did.
Mhm.
So if you're going to drop charges or if you're going to drop a legal matter involving somebody who has been accused of committing the crime, don't you think it would have made a lot of sense to at least get the involvement of our legal team to say, hey, this is what we have decided. We believe that we are signatory to all of these legal instruments.
Mhm.
We cannot sit by supinely and allow this man to be thrown into prison because by doing that, we'll be violating the very legal, instruments that we sign.
Mhm.
But the legal advisor, I spoke to the legal advisor and he did tell me he advised that the case be dropped.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think the legal advisor dropped the ball as well.
So in terms of courtesy, in terms of
Let's
giving,
forget about even courtesy.
yeah.
Courtesy would be more like minimizing, right? But
No,
I
what?
think she has the right to be informed
Yeah, that's
of
what I'm
whatever
saying.
action that the government was going to take.
Yeah,
She's the alleged victim.
yeah. So yes, the government could have informed her, and maybe should have informed her as a
Or legal
citizen
team.
as well, or either directly or through her legal team.
Absolutely.
They could have done that. I think it's easy to do. Just go to the court. All of the contact information is in the court. I don't know if they did or if they didn't. Um, but also, the judge could have brought the parties together as well and say, or even inform them, not necessarily bring them together, but inform them of his or her decision, because again, the decision rests with the judge, with the judicial bench. What the executive can do is to make representation,
Absolutely.
is to advise. I want to assume what Councilor Keita did was to make the representation and to give the advice on the government's position as it relates to the Abdullah Cornet,
Kamara.
Abdullah Kamara law, which is law, and the commitment under the Table Mountain Declaration. So I do not disagree with you that maybe they should have informed Ambassador Andy and her team. If they did not do that, um, um, then maybe yes, they should have done that. But in terms of the action and the position that the government took, I want to assume that the government did so to honor its obligation under the law, which is the Abdullah Kamara law. but also under the Table Mountain Declaration, to which it committed itself. To say, let's not send people to jail for what they say simply because they say it. Let's go through the civil process. Um, because criminal license speech can chill speech. People who don't have money. I don't know. I don't know Prophet Key, but I don't know where you get $1.5 million from to pay as bond or whatever. So based upon that now, it, people will say, I'm not going to say nothing because if I say something and they sue me for 10 million, then 2 million that'll come away or the 2.5 million that'll come away. That was what the government was trying to prevent. Now, did they dot all the I's and cross all the T's? Perhaps not. But I believe Councillor Keita was looking at the bigger picture, which is now Liberia would have been seen as violating its international obligation under the Table Mountain Agreement, but also its own laws under the Abdullah Kamara Act, which is actually a law passed by legislature and signed into law by President Ria.
Yeah, but look, Alfonso, let's take a few seconds and
Mm.
then come back to this
Yeah,
discussion.
but real quickly,
Uh,
let me end on this note.
yeah, go ahead. Hmm.
I hope that, I mean, I don't think it's lit. I hope that the government, if that hasn't happened, if that didn't happen, if that hasn't already happened, I hope that the government will still reach out to Ambassador Endy and let her know why they took the action that they took. That it wasn't meant to prejudice her. It wasn't meant to hurt her, but it was meant to make sure that a second wrong was not done. And Ambassador Andy herself said that she was not interested. Her interest was not in seeing this young man go to prison. So obviously, when they meet with her and say, "Well, thank you. Here is why we intervene," because it would have violated the law if he went to prison or if he faced prison time. I'm sure having that conversation with her will put her at ease a little bit.
But Mister, that's what we call putting the cart before the horse. The same time that the legal advisor had to call the prosecution team or to talk to authorities at the civil law court, he would have used that same time to reach out to Ambassador Andy, reach out to her legal team, and even before making the public pronouncement, they would have asked for a meeting. That's how you resolve conflict. But somebody is exerting authority here, and that's just a real bad precedent. That I will notify, and later on I will deal with you. That's what the legal advisor and representatives of President Boakar's office did. That we would take the action because we feel we strongly believe that doing this will be a violation of the rights of someone who reportedly wronged you. We will not talk to you. We will do what we gotta do, and then later on we will come back now and talk to you. The harm has already been done.
Mhm. So I look at it the way, and I don't disagree with that point that you make. The way I look at it, though, is not that the Council of Buju Keita and the president's office are so much interested in protecting the rights of Prophet Key. I think they're more interested in protecting the image of the government and the country.
Alfonso, you and I agree on that.
Yeah, I think that's where the interest was, protecting the image and the government and of the government and the country, and making sure that the government upholds its international obligations and its laws.
Yeah.
I
And
think that's where they came from. Not so much protecting Prophet Key against Ambassador Andy. Now you're correct. They maybe we wouldn't have had this outburst and anger and frustration from Ambassador Andy if they had met with her and explained this to her before making their representation to the court.
yes.
Maybe we wouldn't have had this
Yes.
outburst from her. I don't know. I mean, I guess she's saying that they never did. And you
She
also
said it
talk.
never did.
Of,
That's what she had a uh 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 the the video that you watch.
mhm.
uh that's a news conference that she had in Monrovia today.
Okay, okay.
So I don't think Ambassador Andy would have taken, to the media
Mhm,
to hold a major news conference,
mhm,
after, people from the government have reached out to her.
mhm, mhm,
The legal advisor and other representatives of the office of the president,
mhm,
I strongly believe they would have even used that opportunity to provide education. That hey, we are here for all Liberians. What affects one Liberian affects all Liberians.
mhm,
Let's have a conversation and explain to all parties why this action need to be taken. But
mhm,
it shouldn't come as a surprise.
mhm.
You see where I'm coming from,
So that and yeah,
Alfonso?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
I
shouldn't be a surprise.
mhm, mhm,
Maybe and again, if you have judges, if you have prosecutors in the civil law court, and they would sit there and someone would file a lawsuit, they would. I mean, are they telling us that they do not know some of the legal instruments that Liberia has already ratified, or that Liberia is a signatory to? That's another question. That's another conversation by itself. But
yeah.
hey, let me stop there quickly and tell our many viewers tonight that hey, we are in the issues room. This is where you want to be every Tuesday, every Friday. And tonight we are discussing the legal matter involving cultural ambassador Judy Andy and Prophet Key Justin, the Liberian who resides in Morocco, who is infamously known for, denigrating other Liberians, both in Liberia and abroad. We're looking at the action of the legal action taken by Ambassador Andy seeking legal redress. And we're also looking at the intervention today from the office of the legal advisor to President Joseph Boakai, my own friend and brother, Bushu Ben Keita, my former boss at LBS, who is now a legal luminary. And we're looking at the pros and the cons of what he did today. The surprise action, which of course did not go down well with Ambassador Judy Andy. If you want to be a part of this discussion, I want to give you the opportunity to give us a ring. Don't hesitate. Let me give you my number. My number is 302-494-4688. Call and be a part of this discussion. Tonight, unfortunately, we're not going to bring memory lane, and we will also not bring our regular um, what type of country is this segment of the show. We just want to, delve more into this matter to really, wrap our heads around it, provide some education, regarding this matter, because this is very, very critical. This is very important, because, as a government and that came in pledging to uphold the rules of, to uphold the rule of law in Liberia, to ensure that all Liberians are treated fairly. When some of these things are happening, the optics just not good. All Liberians, regardless of where they come from, should be treated fairly. So for someone to file a claim against another person and a senior official of government sits somewhere and makes a decision, and that decision comes as a surprise, Alfonso, I think is the optic is just not good. is absolutely not good. That's how I just see it, you know. And I want to be honest with my boss, Mr. Keita, on this one. I don't know whatever behind the scene discussion you guys have, but what is in the public domain, the optics just not good for the Boaka administration. You
So I
know,
don't want to. I want to make this point though.
yeah,
I do not think that the administration violated any laws here. The administration had the right to go to the court and make representation again where it feels that laws are being violated or the rights of citizens are at stake. So, in my view, no laws were violated because the decision still rests with the judicial branch of government, which is the judge in the criminal court. Again, if the judge in the criminal court just went ahead and dropped the case because he or she was told by the president's legal advisor to drop the case, then that is totally wrong. But if the judge reviewed the circumstances and agreed that the case needed to be dropped because it violated existing law, then that is how it should be done. Where I would agree with you that the president's legal advisor erred or might have erred is A, if he did not communicate this with the other party, in this case, the aggrieved, allegedly aggrieved party, meaning Ambassador Andy and her legal team. And my suggestion is that if they did not do that, they should go back and do that and fix it and going forward do that. But their, in my view, their intervention was to and did uphold the law. It also upheld Liberia's obligation, treaty obligation, for lack of a better word. So I don't know, Table Mountains or treaty. But international obligations as it relates to the Table Mountain Declaration to which Liberia committed itself, like many other African countries. So it was important, in my view, for the government to intervene to prevent this particular law and this international commitment from being, for lack of a better word, trampled. I would agree with you in terms of the way they did it, but I'm glad that they did because if they did not, it would have really sent a terrible message out there that Liberia doesn't honor its treaty obligations and also that Liberia is abusing, is Liberian government is sitting supinely and the courts are abusing the rights of people and violating the law that was recently signed. Imagine what the optics would have been that President Weah signed a law that protect the rights of citizens as far as criminal libel is concerned. And President Boakai, who said he was coming to protect the rights of people, allow the violation of that rights in order for criminal libel to take hold. Imagine what the optics would have been. I want to assume that that's where Councillor Buchu Ben Keita came from. And should he have probably talked to the other party? Did he talk to them? Did he not talk to them? Should he have talked to them? Definitely talking to them would have settled all of this noise right now. So I agree with you on that point. Again, I just want to make that clarification so listeners and people do not go away from here saying that we are saying that the government was wrong to intervene. I think what the issue here is the way they intervene. That is my perspective. Um, so I'm hoping that they fix it And I agree with you, Moses. I'm
Hmm.
also hoping that they use this as an educational, as a teachable moment. They shouldn't just stop at this case. They should actually undertake public education to inform the public of the existence of these laws and educate people on the existence of these laws on our books so that these are not repeated. Where again people go to court, resources are expended on cases like this only for them to get dropped later on. Educating people about these things will be extremely important, extremely critical going forward.
But look, let me bring you a recording
Mhm,
from the accused Prophet Key in reference to the same case.
mhm,
I got a recording here of him, speaking on the same matter, and let me see if we will be able to have him on
mhm,
and hear let Liberian listen to him. So
The
now listen to
lawyer
him.
collected almost 2,005 from me.
Okay,
I'm
bro.
not buying the government truck. I hear what they say,
Are you
they
hearing
free
me?
the man with help you. They know that my money working for me. Not buying the government. Place a call. Those that brought the power. Where were they when Henry Costa was fighting tirelessly to get rid of Joseph Banda? I sacrificed everything. I kind of country. I refused to come to Labrador during Joey time because I knew this was going to happen. Even for inauguration, I refused to come because I knew.
So this is Prophet Key, the man who has gained notoriety for denigrating women in Liberia, for also denigrating men that he claimed are corrupt. Talking about how he's been treated in Liberia. He claims that people in government are not coming to his aid, in this matter. It just speaks a lot about this gentleman, and we all want the law to take its course. I want to say this. Mr. Keita, the legal advisor, is a legal luminary. He's a lawyer. He's a career lawyer. I am now, and you, Alfonso, you also are not, a lawyer. But for Mr. Keita to narrowly, define free speech as someone saying negative thing about another person, and if you prosecute that person, then you will be violating the person's right, as he strongly believes that that forms part of the free speech. I beg to differ. Obscenity is not free speech. Defamation is not free speech, and these are things that Mr. Keith does consistently. That's why when he went to Liberia, people wanted to come and see this man who just sits on social media and literally put down women, call people terrible names. Who knows? Tomorrow, Prophet Key may be on a show putting you and I down,
mhm,
because we're trying to make the case that this time, the action taken by Ambassador Andy, to protect her integrity, to protect the names that she has built for herself over the years, is it's a laudable action for us to say that. Who knows? Prophet Kim may come tomorrow and start saying all the terrible things about our parents. That's what he's known for. And so, as a society, we also need to help people understand that Liberia cannot be a country of men. There got to be rule of laws in that country. If someone commits a crime, someone goes to court, and someone decides to intervene, everyone should be given the opportunity to be heard. You don't put the cart. I mean, you don't put the cart before the horse. Then before you go back to the person, now what you expect the person to say? You have already taken an action. You say, hey, we're going ahead and do this because we want to protect civil liberty. But what's about the other person who violated the other person's civil liberty as well? See? Yeah,
Yeah,
if we
no,
can,
you make a
Alfonso, we
point.
have the next 6 minutes. What you
Yeah,
got to say?
yeah, you make a point. You make a good point, Moses. Although I want to say here that getting a criminal case dropped
Hmm.
doesn't mean that Ambassador Andy still cannot get redress. Ambassador Andy has a case in civil court. She can pursue that case, and civil damages can be awarded to her. And the courts can hold Mr. Prophet Key to pay civil damages. What was dropped, according to my understanding from what she said, is the criminal case. She had two cases. She has civil case and she had a criminal case. So her rights can still be protected under the criminal case. I mean, under the civil case. It's the criminal case that, according to the government, was proceeding wrongly because the laws have been changed. So she still does have the right to proceed with the civil case. And I want to make this point. So if, again, listeners don't go away believing that, oh, her entire case dropped, she has no case. Anybody can just go around, insult people, and go scot free. Nothing's going to happen to you. No, she can still pursue a civil case, and if the court rules in her favor that indeed she was harmed, she was damaged, they can award her financial awards. They can give her financial awards. So she's not entirely losing out um, in this situation. Again, what was dropped was the criminal part of it because, as far as the government was concerned, and I want to believe that a judge agreed with them that the criminal aspect was proceeding wrongly because that criminal label no longer exists. That's what. Again, that's my belief, and I wanted to make that point. I want to make that point clear, so that it's not like, the government took a position and now Ambassador Andy has no other recourse, or if it happens to anybody else, that person has no recourse. No. And I want to encourage her to even pursue the civil case as a deterrence. So nobody goes around and just insulting and disrespecting people.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, uh, that's how we would like to wrap it tonight. I know our many viewers out there, Frank, Thomas Awaji, from Livingstone, Emmanuel Jackson, our own sister from Australia, Omo, Isaac, Rue, watching for Minneapolis, and all of our many, our viewers out there. We want to say thank you for coming. Stanley McGill, thank you, my brother, for coming as well. We appreciate all of you. Mayango, Go Goviyego Senior. Mayango, yeah, Emmanuel Sumo. Yeah, I know tonight you guys miss Memory Lane. Tonight is actually a very brief podcast. Unfortunately, we won't be able to bring up Memory Lane and the other segment. What type of country is this? We'll be wrapping up soon. Yeah, Fatu, welcome. And let me say welcome to all of you. I know we're not going to leave for everybody coming. Pastor Hager, yeah, welcome, Pastor. I know you're watching from Paston, Pennsylvania. It's a pleasure to have you, Pastor. So we want to say thank you for coming. We discussed the ongoing legal issue involving Ambassador Julie Andy and the quote unquote prophet key. I know tomorrow when you hear on the Prophet Key show, Moses and Alphonso being denigrated. Say, hey, don't be surprised now. No, Judy is not former cultural ambassador. She's still cultural ambassador. Judy holds an honorary title, and that's for lifetime. Josephine Koluba is not cultural ambassador. Ambassador Andy and I, we talk. The title has not been relinquished, so she's still cultural ambassador. Jojo is not cultural ambassador of Liberia. So it's good to clarify that. I want to say thanks to all of you for coming. Unfortunately for us tonight, our man Volcano Shelton couldn't be here with us because of other, personal engagements. But I can assure you that Volcano will be here with us on Friday. And it was a pleasure having all of you in the house. And we hope that you look forward to another, thought provoking discussion on Friday. Alfonso, what's the last word?
Yeah. I want to thank the viewers for coming. I was just following the comments here in the comment section, and it was a very engaging night, evening from the viewers. I appreciate that. You can also still share the link and get people to watch even after the show. So please do so as well. And we look forward to seeing you all back, plus more people. Definitely bring more people to the show during our next broadcast, which will be on Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern. So we encourage you all to come and join and participate in the issues room. Thank you all for your participation. Again, your comments are very, very welcome. They're very interesting and intriguing. And Moses, was glad being here with you tonight, and thank you. Thank you as well.
Definitely it was, my man. A very great discussion. Your contribution was very meaningful. We missed our man, Volcano tonight, but we were able to hold this together. And let me say thanks to our many viewers who came. And we look forward to coming back. It was a pleasure being here. Enjoy your evening. And we look forward to seeing you on Friday.
I would suggest you can invite Prophet Key, Moses, just as you
Yeah, let
invited
me extend this open
Ambassador
invitation.
Andy.
Yeah.
You should invite Prophet Key.
Let me extend this open invitation. Prophet Key, wherever you are, Justin, if you would like to join us in the issues room, just inbox me. Let me give you my number. My number is 302-494-4688. So give me a ring. We can schedule a time and bring you in so we can have a conversation as well. That's what the issues room is about. Thanks to all of you for coming, and we look forward to being back here on Friday. Thank you.